Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the GRCV Hoops podcast. My name is Gavin Campbell, and alongside me, as always, my good friend
Ricardo Vargas. Pleasure to be here, as always.
Again, we're just going to jump straight into it. That seemed to be working for us so far, so we're just going to go ahead and get on with today's first topic. Rick, I'm going to ask you a question here. Who are you more surprised about starting off with a 2-2 record, the Brooklyn Nets or the Golden State Warriors?
I'm going to be honest with you and say the Brooklyn Nets, because everybody thought they were going to be, just terrible. But I think it's because of D'Angelo Russell, the way he's been playing.
Absolutely.
Now I see he's a very valuable player to the team.
Absolutely. I think we see here what the Lakers are missing out on. We know that Lonzo Ball is doing his thing in L.A. right now, but D'Angelo Russell, putting up the numbers that he's putting up in these first 4 games has been absolutely incredible.
Oh, he's a playmaker. He's a playmaker, honestly. I love how he plays the game so smooth, and I'm glad he's making the Nets a better team.
Absolutely. And you look at, what he has to work with and all these role players,
right.
Like Amari Carroll, Rondé Hollis-Jefferson,
Karis LeVert,
Trevor Booker, these Alan Crabb, these guys, and he's making it work. He's averaging in the high 20s and or low 20s in points per game, and he's also averaging close to 5 assists, if not 6 almost. And he's even grabbing some rebounds out there. He's being a real playmaker.
Yeah, it's just how you said, with those role players doing what he's doing. I think the Lakers will regret this a lot.
I think they will, and that's no disrespect to Lonzo Ball. I just think that they might have been able to make it
work.
Yeah, make it work. Exactly. They have Jordan Clarkson, which honestly I think is him and D'Angelo Russell. When it comes to scoring the basketball, are about on even level. But I don't think that Clarkson has the floor general mentality when it comes to distributing the ball to your players and being able to make the right play when it presents itself. I think Russell, him working with Lonzo Ball in that Lakers system and with Brandon Ingram and Julius Randle, Larry Nance, these guys, I think that they would have been able to find a way to make it work.
I really think so too, because both of them have even personalities. They're not too egotistical, Lonzo Ball nor D'Angelo Russell. I think they could have worked it out, and they're both great playmakers, but it is what it is, and we'll see who got the better deal at the end.
Are you surprised whatsoever that the Warriors are off to a 2-2 start?
I'm a little surprised because, this is supposed to be the best team, one of the best teams in history.
Right. And
they're off to this start, but I think it's nothing too crazy. It's just the start of the season. I think they'll get it going pretty soon, and this will be a thing of the past.
Absolutely. I think that this surprised a lot of people, just coming from how this team has been talked up to how they performed in the playoffs last year. Not just the regular season, but going 16-1 in the playoffs, beating the Cavaliers in 5 games. Could have been 4.
Right.
If it wasn't for the Cavaliers and specifically Kyrie Irving's performance in one of those finals games. For me, it is a little surprising because of all the talent that's on this team, and especially losing to a team like the Grizzlies, and nothing against the Grizzlies. We know that it's the grindhouse, and they were at Memphis for that loss. But just it's really surprising to see this team lose 2 out of their first 4 games. In the first one to Houston, I felt like they didn't take that first game seriously, and I'm not sure if we mentioned that last week or not, but it's almost like that. They're taking the regular season as a joke, and you have the talent to do that, but you should always treat every opponent with respect, right?
Yeah, and speaking about respect and the Warriors, we saw what Curry did the other day.
Absolutely.
He got that fine. What are your thoughts on that?
I can appreciate the NBA looking into it and being, okay, yeah, this is a quote-unquote hefty fine, $50,000, obviously to someone like you and me, but to someone that makes, $30+ million a year just from the NBA, not including all of his endorsements and Under Armour and things like that, this is chump change to him.
Oh, my goodness,
with no suspension coming attached to, verbally assaulting the ref and then throwing your mouthpiece of all things in the general direction of an official. If this was let's look at it like this. If DeMarcus Cousins had done this same thing, automatic 4 to 6 game suspension.
Easy.
And of course getting fined as well. We don't know how much, probably somewhere around the same amount of money. But this is the thing that gets me. This is not a first time offense for Curry.
No.
He's done this before in the past, and we don't know what it is about him throwing his mouthpiece. I mean, that's just, first of all, it's disgusting. And second off, I mean, why do you feel the need? I mean, you're already down, I think it was 11 or 13 points. There's 2 minutes left in the game. What was so bad that you needed to, take something out of your mouth and throw it at a referee for, quote-unquote, not giving you a call?
It's just hard to believe, you're making millions of dollars playing basketball. The game's, it is where it is, and you really can't get that mad, he's a role model for, so many millions of people and kids, and, that's just how you said, that's disgusting. You got to respect those referees or the officials. They deserve respect, and come on,
Exactly, and this is someone that's a 2-time MVP of the league, and it's just not behavior that you would want in someone, like you said, that's a role model. I mean, this is not behavior that you want repeated. And when you see someone act this childish, that's supposed to be, looked up by kids and some young adults, it's like, you can carry yourself better than that. You have to have the patience and the willpower to be able to control yourself on the floor.
You do. That's part of being a professional and a professional basketball player.
It comes with it. You're exactly right.
Like, I'm not going to throw something at work, or in school.
Right, exactly, and this is their job. If you were to throw a temper tantrum at your job, likelihood you're getting fired. I mean, it's just ridiculous,
Because being a basketballer is a job,
And then Kevin Durant, this guy, I feel like he just needs the spotlight wherever he goes because there was no reason for him to get ejected from this game, but he needed to go to the official. He needed to get his 2 cents in, and then, of course, he's getting heckled by fans. And being Kevin Durant, we know from his past experiences that he has to say something back.
Always has to say something back.
And of course, he holds up the gesture of his ring finger, and he's like, I got mine. It's like, well, yes, you got yours, but you were carried. But that's a story for a different day.
Yeah.
And for anyone that wants to make the argument that he was the best player in the finals, yes, he was. But look who he had helping him, of course.
Exactly.
But again, that's a story for a different day. You don't need to remind people that you are a champion. You should carry yourself like a champion, carry yourself like a professional, and act with some decency.
I agree with you 100%.
And I excuse myself for getting a little heated like that, but it's disappointing to me to see great athletes and professionals like this act in such a derogatory manner. It doesn't need to be done. And the fact that, the NBA is quote unquote protecting their brand by not suspending Steph Curry because, if he's not playing, then some fans won't watch. I mean, just shows you how money hungry this league can be sometimes. And it's a little ridiculous, to be honest.
It's a little disgusting because, you're still going to get that money, Show some dignity and show some ethical standards. I
mean, just to give one more example, because if this was DeMarcus Cousins, it would have been a for sure suspension. I'm 110% sure on that. Udonis Haslem in the playoffs with the Miami Heat, he threw his mouthpiece, not even at an official. He threw it on the ground in disgust on a foul call, and he was suspended for 1 playoff game. A playoff game.
No, I hear you 100%.
It's just absolutely ridiculous, and I know that I've spent too much time on this topic, but I mean, really, this needs to change. Honestly,
it does. Honestly,
but moving on down the list here, talk about something that's not upsetting in any way or anything like that. Who do you think, Rick? Tell me, is the most impressive undefeated team so far? We know that the Washington Wizards, Los Angeles Clippers, Memphis Grizzlies, and San Antonio Spurs are all 3-0 right now. Give me your thoughts on these teams and which one you think is the best out of the first 4 games of the season.
I think the most impressive for me, it's the Clippers because I didn't think they want to be this good, losing CP3. But they've been really impressive. Blake Griffin has been playing like an MVP-type candidate.
Oh, absolutely.
And if he stays healthy, I think I'm very surprised with the Clippers. And if they keep playing like this, they can go deep in the playoffs. And if they get Eric Bledsoe,
right.
Oh my goodness.
Eric Bledsoe is a topic that we will be discussing later. But absolutely, man, could you imagine Bledsoe going back to this Clipper team?
Oh my goodness,
being essentially, not that Beverly isn't a good player, but being Chris Paul's replacement. He was already with the team before.
That's quite a replacement.
And they want him back. We saw DeAndre Jordan post a tweet that said, "Come back home." So he's welcome with open arms. It's just if they're going to be able to get a deal done or not.
That's quite the replacement, and I'd be happy to see him back in LA. But another impressive team so far is the Spurs because they've been doing this without their superstar player, Kawhi Leonard. So
really
that's
impressive. Really impressive.
That's just impressive. But, like, how about you? Tell me your thoughts.
I'm going to piggyback off what you said, and I'm going to have to say the Spurs. I wasn't sure. I was going to say the Clippers, but let me say this. I wasn't sure how they were going to perform. I think we had mentioned that a couple times in previous episodes. It could have gone either way, and that's why I'm not so much surprised more by the Clippers, because it could have been good, could have been terrible. But the Spurs, without Kawhi Leonard, I would have expected him to at least drop one of these first few games here, if not two of them. Not to say that, Kawhi isn't that important to the team, and that's why they're undefeated. This shows you how good of a coach Greg Popovich is, and that he can work without his superstar player. It's just truly incredible to see what they're able to do. I was watching the Spurs-Raptors game, and just, in the Raptors, they're no pushovers. I know the East is weak, but they're no slouches. And during that game, it was going back and forth, but I think it comes down to coaching, not just Pop, but the entire Spurs staff and the way that they were able to handle that game and, pull out the win. I'm sure being at home had something to do with the victory, but I'm really impressed with the Spurs. And not to discredit the Washington Wizards or the Memphis Grizzlies, but the Wizards I think have had an easier schedule. But then the Grizzlies, defeating the Golden State Warriors is no easy task, especially with the last few years and the way that their team's been constructed, especially with Kevin Durant now on the squad. Memphis really impressive, but overall, really all of these teams impressive so far to be undefeated.
Oh yeah, and one thing with the Spurs, they were playing this good, and that's helped them is
DeJounte Murray?
Yeah. He's been playing good. He's 13, 9, almost 10 rebounds and 5 assists.
You can't ask that much. As a second-year player. Getting backup minutes at that. He's only averaging about 20-something minutes a game behind Tony Parker, but he's been able to put up these numbers. That's really impressive, and probably what helped them get to this record.
Yeah, for sure. DeJounte Murray.
With those numbers, if you're looking for someone on your fantasy team, don't be afraid to go pick him up.
Honestly.
Moving on down the list here, this man has been playing out of his freaking mind since the season started. But I'm going to ask the question, is Giannis Antetokounmpo the clear-cut front-runner for MVP?
Oh, right now, without a doubt.
Without a doubt.
My goodness. But tell me, when they played the Trailblazers on that last play, do you think that was a reach-in on C.J. McCollum?
I'm not the official, so I can't say that it was or it wasn't. To me, I don't think it was. If you're gonna call it either way, I think you give the benefit of the doubt to the defender, especially it being the last play of the game. But I can see why people would be upset with that. You could definitely tell that it quote unquote was a reach-in foul.
He was in there.
Being on the last possession of the game, I think the officials just like to let the players play unless it's something absolutely blatant. Yeah, and I think something like that can be let go. But again, it can go either way. Yeah,
and it was at home, last play, like how you said. Right. And that game was dedicated for his dad who passed away.
Right.
So I think it all just worked out. An incredible game. And yeah, for sure, he's the clear-cut MVP right now. He's playing insane.
He posted a career-high 44 points on Saturday. And this guy, he just keeps getting better and better and better every single year he's in the league. And there seems to be more and more people jumping on this hype train.
Oh, yeah.
And they have every reason to be. He's just an incredible talent, and I think to be the front runner is absolutely deserving if you were to ask me. But I think there's so many people in this league that have potential to be an MVP candidate, and I think it's going to boil down to where the Milwaukee Bucks finish in the Eastern Conference, being that it is so weak. I don't think if they can't get a top 5 seed in the East, which I believe they will, but if they can't get a top 5 seed in the East, I don't think that you can give Giannis MVP despite what numbers he puts up.
Okay. Hey, that's respectable. I think he's gonna win it. The craziest thing for me is how young he is.
Oh, absolutely.
He's just so incredibly young. He has so much potential left, and I'm just excited to see him play for the rest of the season. And
now, speaking of MVPs, one that I was thinking about after watching the Wizards play these past few games is John Wall. Do you think John Wall could be considered a dark horse candidate for MVP?
Oh, yes, easily. And, he is just he's been playing amazing. Last year in the playoffs, he was playing out of his mind. He's just carried that on. into this season. He worked hard in the offseason. He is an MVP candidate and will continue to be because he's going to continue playing at this high level.
Absolutely, and I think him being the facilitator of that team really helps him out. With his MVP candidacy, if you want to say, him averaging 24 points and 10 assists right now, close to 11 assists right now. It's really incredible because he's not part of one of these super teams. Just like Giannis, he's not part of one of these super teams. And I think him being able to put up the numbers that he does and being able to do John Wall things, being the fastest player in the NBA, 360 layups, being
so entertaining,
ambidextrous, just the handles and things that he's able to pull off.
The blocks.
Exactly. I wouldn't be surprised to see him win MVP this year. And, depending what happens in Washington and if they can get a top 2 seed in the East and the Bucks slip this season, I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if they gave it to him.
Oh, yeah, and I would not mind that at all because he's a great player.
Now, we talked about MVP. Now, let's move to a different award that, we're obsessed with because we seem to talk about it every week here on the show. But Rookie of the Year, the two that stand out to me so far, and I know to you as well, Rick, is Lonzo Ball and Ben Simmons. Okay, Lonzo Ball averaging 13.3 points, 9.3 rebounds, and 8.7 assists.
Wow.
Ben Simmons averaging 17 points, almost 11 rebounds, and 7 assists. Who right now do you think has a better chance to win Rookie of the Year, even though it's only been 4 games?
I don't know. This is just a prediction of mine. I think it's going to be Simmons because I think he'll play more consistently. He'll have these numbers throughout the entire season. Ball, he'll have his occasional, poor games. But
right. And Simmons, we've seen that so far.
Yeah, so far. And he is just young. This is Simmons' second year in the league, but he didn't play the first one, but got the training in, knew the team, coaches. He's been working. I think he has more experience, and I think he's going to play better overall.
I'm going to piggyback off what you said again, and I'm going to agree with you first. I think what was teetering to me was picking Lonzo Ball or Ben Simmons. After watching them play, we knew that Lonzo Ball was an all-around player. We knew that he could score. We knew that he could facilitate, and he can even get rebounds, like we see here. Over 9 rebounds a game as a point guard. That's incredible.
That is.
But Ben Simmons, this is a guy that we picked because he was a better facilitator, at least to us. And then, of course, he can rebound because he's almost 7 feet tall. But this is a guy who we thought was going to struggle scoring the basketball because he can't shoot.
Right.
But he has shown he can get inside and manhandle people, averaging 17 points a game.
He looks like a vet.
Honestly, he does.
He doesn't look like a rookie. He looks like a vet in the game.
And I think this has something to do with, like you said, him being a part of the NBA culture for an entire year, like spending time with the coaches, the training staff, shooting buckets inside an NBA facility, and just I think honestly one of the biggest parts is just watching the game.
Every single night.
Being there for every single game and just watching, the flow, how things happen, the passing lanes, things like that. Things that you wouldn't think would come into account that visually you remember because you've seen it 80-plus times.
All those things help him, and look what he's doing now.
Absolutely. And I do ultimately think Simmons will end up winning it, but either one of these guys, great candidate for Rookie of the Year, and we wish the Lakers and the 76ers luck on the season. Moving on down here, this is something that we had talked about a couple weeks ago that I'm not surprised in the slightest that it has now been reversed. A couple weeks ago, Tyronn Lue came out and said that Dwayne Wade would be implanted in the starting lineup for J.R. Smith and J.R. would come off the bench. Just a few days ago, Dwayne Wade went to the Cavaliers and said he would like to come off the bench so he could lead the second unit, and J.R. Smith will now be reinserted into the starting lineup. Rick, go ahead and give me your thoughts on this move and if it was a good one.
I remember us talking about it last time, and I think it's a good move. They've seen that this wasn't working out too much, so let's try out something else. I think J.R. Smith fits good in the starting lineup. He's just a shooter. LeBron can find him, dish it out.
Absolutely.
And Wade, he can lead the second unit. He's a leader. Let him have that group.
And I think that this works out extremely well for him. If the Cavs are Okay, let me get to that point later. First off, let me say, I think this is a great move because he is averaging the lowest points per game that he has throughout his entire career, okay? He's never been a shooter. The Cavaliers system is all about spreading the floor and having LeBron facilitate, and when LeBron's not in, having the ball handler facilitate and hit open shooters on the perimeter. Wade is not a perimeter shooter unless it's the playoffs and he's, shooting almost 50% from three. However, having said that, I think this is a great move because when you put Wade on the bench, bring in JR, now you have the system back to where it's supposed to be, where you have perimeter shooters because you have Kevin Love, you have Jay Crowder, you have JR. I think the lineup that they went with last night against Chicago, even though that was a really weird game and Chicago was up by 15 points at one time, and then they were leading at the half, and then they come back and win by 10 or 11 points. The Cavs do. It was really strange, really strange. But the lineup that they had out there, LeBron James at the point guard, and then you have JR, then Crowder, then Love, then Tristan Thompson. I think this is the best lineup that the Cavs can put together without Isaiah Thomas.
Hey, it worked for them last night.
And I'm really impressed with LeBron, playing point guard, and the fact that he was able to rack up not just 13 assists, which is impressive in itself, 34 points, and shooting over 60% from the floor.
You just see what type of monster that guy is. Like, just to compare, like John Wall's a MVP candidate, and it's impressive what he's doing, and then LeBron does this like it was nothing.
Absolutely, and this is something that isn't new. He did this early in his career back with the Cavs, and he did this a handful of times in Miami. With the injury to Mario Chalmers, and him and Wade shared minutes at the point guard position. I mean, this is nothing new to him.
It's not, and it always comes to the debate, like when for the MVP, like doesn't like LeBron deserve it like every year?
Exactly, and that's an argument that can be made every single year. But I think it comes down to what a lot of sports analysts say: it's voter fatigue.
Yeah.
Do you really want to give it to the best player every single year? It's like it's LeBron James 3 years from now, LeBron James 3 more years, LeBron James. They don't want to do that.
They don't.
But honestly, he should probably have 8 or 9 MVPs. I mean, this guy has been the best player in the league for over a decade, well over a decade.
It's insane at his age, doing what he's doing. Oh my God!
Keep in mind, he's going to be 33 years old in December, and he's still doing what he's doing is just nothing short of incredible.
I'm just glad I have him on my fantasy team.
Yeah, I'm sure you are because I don't have him. It's a struggle to say the least, but props to the king, and this just shows how versatile he can be. He's not just a brute who can bully you inside. I mean, he's a facilitator, he's a floor general. He can find the open guy from any position on the floor, really. I mean, we've seen him play power forward, small forward, shooting guard, point guard. I mean, he does it all. Hell, he could play center if he wanted to. I mean, yes, being 6'9" at 250 pounds, I mean, he could very well play center.
Easily, without a doubt.
But, just adds on to LeBron's greatness, and, where he'll stack up in NBA history when it's all said and done is it's going to be interesting to watch. And we'll see what happens at the end of this season and see if he can break even with those rings, being 4-4 in the finals,
my goodness.
See what the haters have to say about that.
Right.
But that we'll cross that bridge when we come to it in a few months. Getting on down the list here, how about Andrew Wiggins and hitting a game winner off the glass to defeat the Oklahoma City Thunder?
I was impressed with that. Like that coming from Andrew Wiggins in OKC, what a big shot.
We don't know if he called glass, but it definitely took some guts to be able to take the last shot, and I think this shows that he's not afraid to be that guy in crunch time.
Oh yeah, and that's what the Timberwolves need. They need someone who can make that last second shot, and they have, I think, and not just Wiggins that can make the last shot. Jimmy Butler,
absolutely.
I think
Jimmy has been shown that he can be very clutch when time's running down, and you need a big shot from him. They don't call him Jimmy Buckets for nothing.
That's true. And then you got Jamal Crawford as well.
Absolutely. And we know Jamal has never been afraid of the big moment.
Never. He loves it.
Ever since he came in the league, back with the Bulls many, many, many moons ago, he is still the same guy.
That he is.
And, he hasn't been a 3-time Sixth Man of the Year for nothing. He's just a great teammate to have out there, and especially that killer crossover.
Oh God!
And being able to drain it from 17, 25, it doesn't matter.
He's honestly one of the most entertaining basketball players I've ever seen.
Absolutely, and it's going to be disappointing when Father Time catches up with him. But it's definitely been a blast being able to watch him play. But getting back to the Timberwolves and Andrew Wiggins, I can't recall if this is his first game winner of his career. It might be his second one if I'm remembering correctly. But being able to hit that big shot, like you said, this is just something that if your team is able to do, even if it is luck, it's happened. That just gives you confidence. Being able to do that, and having your teammates see that and put faith in you to take that shot, and him only being, was he 23 years old?
Something like that.
Being able to do that's a huge accomplishment with all these years ahead of you.
And that's just such a big momentum boost for the entire team. Like, how can you not feel good going into the next game when you just did that last one? Like,
absolutely,
it helps them a lot.
Which you think that momentum would be carried over to the next game, but they lost by 30 points to the Indiana Pacers at home after beating OKC in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, sometimes it works, and it didn't work this time.
This is what worries me real quick. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No worries.
This is what really is concerning to me about the Timberwolves, is that the inconsistency is still there. Yes, they're 2-2. Yes, we've seen them hit some big shots this season. Yes, we've seen them, the cohesion there within that unit. But the inconsistency of, beating an elite team like Oklahoma City Thunder in their big three, and then losing to a lower tier team in the Eastern Conference by 30 points.
That's a major problem, because
it's just ridiculous.
If you can't be consistent, like, how do you expect to make it to the playoffs and just be in the playoffs in the Western Conference and be consistent
and being able to compete at that? It's just
night in, night out.
Yeah,
it's tough. It's tough.
It's just a head scratcher to me. But like we said, it's only been 4 games. Only 3 games. People play their 4th game tonight, which we will get to our predictions later in the show. But, inconsistency, that needs to be worked out, absolutely. We know they're still young, so we hope that Tibbs can, and Jimmy Butler and Taj Gibson for that matter, because we know that those are his guys from Chicago. Hopefully they can get those kinks worked out.
Hopefully.
But moving on down here, the Phoenix Suns fired head coach Earl Watson, and we're not sure if that had anything to do with Eric Bledsoe and his decision to tweet out that he doesn't want to be with the Phoenix Suns anymore. But this is just really strange in itself, firing your head coach 3 games into the season. If you didn't want him starting the season with your team and you didn't think he was good enough, why didn't you make a change in the summer?
Yeah, if they would have done it in the summer, not so many eyes on them, less drama, but it just hurts them. Plus on top of all this losing, and by the amount of points they're losing,
right?
This is just not good for the team.
How do you lose your home opener by 40 points? 40 points.
They just, did they not want to play?
I'm not sure what happened. And what I feel bad for is that you picked them to win that game. They were at home. You would expect it to be close, but the Blazers, they didn't care.
I remember, I honestly thought, because they have guys. They have Devin Booker. They have Josh Jackson.
And they even Eric Bledsoe.
I mean,
they have guys that can play, but this just seems like such a dysfunctional organization, and it's been like that for the past few years now. I'm glad that they have pieces and that they're trying to move forward, but I think it starts up top, and that the owner needs to figure out what is going on, because it's not like the Suns have assets right now. Because if you can't move your young guys if you're trying to build a successful system. And for me, firing of head coach Watson is, if you were going to do it, before the season started. Because if you brought in a new coach and you were performing poorly, then your excuse is it's a new system, it's a new coach, you need to get everything acclimated. Right. But this is a guy that had an entire season, with the team to get things figured out, and then you lose all 3 of your games before you get fired by, I'm pretty sure it's a record margin, but you please correct me if I'm wrong. That's just it's a big head scratcher. And then getting to Eric Bledsoe, you can't blame him. I mean, he's been with the Suns for 4 years now, if not longer, if my memory suits me. But it's sad to see his talent wasted, because we know when him and Isaiah Thomas and Goran Dragic were there.
Oh yeah.
Those 3 guards, that was like a 3-headed monster at point guard.
But then they were never able to work that out, to be honest.
Right.
And I feel for Eric Bledsoe, him not wanting to be here, but he is the leader of that team.
Yes.
The blame falls on him.
It does.
As well.
It does.
Not just on him, but he has a large part to do with it, and He could have not tweeted. I just talk it over behind the scenes, just how Kyrie did with the Cavs. You know, just behind the scenes.
Right. Not make it publicly known, but we don't know what's going on in his head. But ultimately, it does come down to, when you are the leader of a team, like LeBron James, like Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Now, the weight, no matter what, falls on your shoulders. No matter if it's your fault, if it's one of your players' fault. If it's someone else within the organization, it could come back to bite you. I mean, we like to say that it falls on the coach, and a large majority of it does. But when you're the leader of that team, you're to blame for some of those things. And I'm not sure if Bledsoe is made out to be the number one guy anywhere. I think he would be a really nice third option somewhere. And even being the point guard for a playoff team that's in like the bottom tier could boost them up to the top 4 or 5. I think he has that kind of impact for a team. We know that he's an emotional guy. I mean, he's called mini LeBron because he plays like a truck, even though he's 6'1".
Yeah, he's not the number one option, but he could help a team become better. Like, I can even see him as a second option, to be honest.
That's fair to say.
Because he is a good player.
He is very, very good. He's good everywhere. Inside, out. He's a good free throw shooter. He's an underrated defender, honestly. He's pretty good on the defensive side of the floor.
And that's why he fits so perfectly with the Clippers.
Right.
Because he would be like a second, third option.
Yeah, and getting back to what you were saying earlier, about him going to the Clippers, I don't think that, if there's any way that they can get him to LA, do it.
Yeah, I would honestly do it.
I think it's the best situation, no matter how you look at it, no matter how you slice it. He's familiar with the organization. Doc is a player's coach, which is great. The one thing I don't like about him that when he plays GM Doc, that's terrible. He needs to let the front office do their job, especially with Jerry West there now. I'm curious if he has anything to say about it publicly. I would love to hear what Jerry West has to say about them trying to acquire Bledsoe, but we know that he likes to work behind the scenes, and I don't think that we're going to hear anything from him, but I would just love to be inside his head while this is going on.
Me too.
But because I think the issue that comes up with the Clippers, well, first things first, the front runners to get Eric Bledsoe that have assets to trade for him that the Suns would be interested in are the Milwaukee Bucks, the New York Knicks, and the Denver Nuggets. Now, the only semi-contender out of these three to me is Denver. Would you agree?
Yeah, I could agree. Yeah.
Not that he wouldn't fit in Milwaukee. I think if he goes to New York, his career is over. I think him and Kristaps Porzingis would be a good 1-2 punch, but the Knicks are not going to do anything against the Cavs, the Wizards, the Raptors, these teams. It's not going to happen. But I think with the Bucks, he would fit really well with Giannis and Chris Middleton and Thon Maker. I think that he would fit in great with that system and be a facilitator with Giannis, so take some ball handling pressure off of him. But I think with the Nuggets, I think that would be the best fit for him, having Paul Millsap and Jokic, already good ball handling center and forward, and then throwing him into the mix. I mean, you can just spin that ball all over the court, and just confuse the other team, if anything. And we already know that Denver's a great three-point shooting team. They were the number one offense last year after they traded Yusuf Nurkic. I just think that that's the best fit for him.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I definitely don't want to see Eric Bledsoe go from the Phoenix Suns to another terrible organization,
right?
In the Knicks.
And him being 27 years old, he's in his prime right now. We want to see him go to a somewhat of a contender.
Yeah, and the Nuggets, just how you said, they're a decent team that with one more piece, they could be up there at the top, not number one, but in the top of the West with teams.
I think
those top teams.
Yeah, exactly. I think they could be a 4 or 5 seed with Bledsoe for sure, and that could definitely shake up the Western Conference playoffs.
It could. Murray, Bledsoe, Jokic, and Millsap.
Exactly. And I think why this works out is because the way that it's going down, or people are saying that for this trade to happen, it would have to include Emmanuel Mudiay and Kenneth Faried. Kenneth Faried has saw a reduced role within the Nuggets team for a few years now. Mudiay is not performing up to par because of his shooting struggles. We know that he can somewhat pass the ball. We know that he's a good defender.
Yeah.
But I think the Suns would be interested in him and having him grow with Devin Booker, who's a sharpshooter. Josh Jackson, who's a great wing player. I think that, if that happened, Kenneth Faried would be good for veteran leadership along with Tyson Chandler, who they already have. But then, putting Mudiay in that system, I think they can mold him into a point guard that they want him to be, what they wanted Bledsoe to be. but it doesn't match up with their timeline in terms of age.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying, and it would be nice to see Emmanuel Mudiay, thrive on another team because
Right.
he's still real young. He still has a lot of playing left inside him, and I think with Kenneth Faried as well, I think he can re-energize his career with another team because
Especially with a team that's so young.
yeah, because with the Nuggets, he's just been on decline. I remember he used to be good.
He used to be the manimal.
Yeah,
I mean, and we've seen Faried highlights from like 3 or 4 years ago where
it's crazy.
he had so much hang time, just so much enthusiasm. You could see the emotion in how he played. On the defensive end, on the offensive end, everything really.
And what he did it good. Score inside the paint, get some rebounds.
Absolutely. I mean, he's definitely not a bad player by any stretch of the imagination, but he's definitely a guy. I think like you said, if he does end up going to Phoenix, because I think the Nuggets, if they were to throw in Mudiay and Faried along with maybe a pick, they could definitely get this deal done.
For sure.
I think that he could get a little re-energized. Being in his late 20s, almost 30 years old, he still has years left in him.
He does.
Play,
He does.
And I think that he could really help out this Suns team. Maybe not as athletic as he was, but still bring some athleticism to this team.
Oh, for sure. I agree with you 100%. And I think Eric Bledsoe, he would be a good addition for the Nuggets. It will work out perfectly. I think.
Absolutely. Ultimately, I hope he does end up going to the LA Clippers, though. If they can, if Doc Rivers can, just sit back and let the GMs work and allow them to trade his son, Austin Rivers, along with maybe a pick, maybe another one of their bench pieces, maybe a Sam Decker or a Montrezl Harrell. If you package Austin Rivers with one of those two guys and a pick, I think that gets the deal done. It's whether Doc is willing to part ways with his son or not.
Yeah, and they really need to.
They really do. Not to say that he's a bad player, but he's really not worth the money they're paying him, first of all. And then I also don't like it when father-son, connections happen on a team. I feel like that messes with the chemistry with the other players. And, just some favoritism there, even if they don't want to say there is. It's a father and son relationship. There's going to be favorites.
Exactly.
But moving on, we'll just go ahead and get the injuries out of the way here because there's been a handful of them. Anthony Davis injured his left knee last night against Portland. He is day-to-day listed. We don't know if he's going to be good to go for his next game or not tomorrow. We hope he is because we saw last night DeMarcus Cousins is a beast, but he needs help because the amount of guards on that team, it's really – I don't want to say it's, bad or anything, but it's definitely not helping them. They can shoot. I think the acquisition of Jameer Nelson was nice as a playmaker, but Drew Holiday I don't think is a true shooting guard. I think his natural position is the point.
Oh, yeah.
When he was in there, he was doing a really good job with it, with running the point guard position. But when AD went down, they put Ian Clark out there. They put Jameer Nelson out there. Guys like this, and they seem to struggle down the stretch. And DeMarcus tried to keep them in the game. I mean, he scored almost 40 points. I mean, you can't ask much more than that from the guy. But I think without AD or without DeMarcus Cousins, the Pelicans they can kiss their playoffs hopes goodbye.
Yeah, oh my goodness, yes. And then you throw in Rondo's also hurt.
For a minimum 3 weeks to go before he can even see the floor.
Yeah, you got a few for the team, but that's just part of the NBA.
Yeah, injuries happen, and he had a fairly healthy season last year. I think he played 70 games.
He did.
But it's the seasons before that, where he's riddled with knee injuries, shoulder issues, foot or ankle problems.
A little bit of everything.
And we hate to see that. And we wish him healthy because we want to see the Pelicans do well this season. I think they have a really interesting team. Jimmy Butler has a respiratory infection. He missed the game against the Pacers, which may have something to do with why they lost by 30 points. They were missing his defense. But he's also missing the game tonight. I forget who they're playing. I have it written down here somewhere. Oh, they don't play tonight. They play tomorrow. Okay, well, I know that he is for sure ruled out of no, they do play tonight. They play the Pistons. I'm sorry, I missed that there. They are playing the Detroit Pistons tonight. He will miss that game. He should be healthy in the next few days, though, so it's nothing serious. And then Markelle Fultz, we had an update 2 days ago. He was experiencing shoulder pain from a cortisone shot, and he will miss minimum 3 games. This is probably going to affect the Sixers. a lot because he is playing over 20 minutes a game. I really don't. I don't know what happened because this was something that his agent had reported on, but then he retracted the statement and said something else. That's where we got the cortisone issue. It's really a hazy situation. But getting off of that, how do you think the Sixers are going to fare these next 3 games without their rookie?
I think they'll continue playing how they were playing because Markelle Fultz, he wasn't playing that good. I had him on my fantasy team, and I was like, like what? What is this?
Free throws is a big problem for him.
My goodness.
For a guard, it's atrocious to watch him shoot.
And the thing is, it does have to do with his injury. So I think it's better for him to miss these games and him be 100% healthy to see what he can really do because we haven't seen the true potential of Fultz.
Right.
Because if we talk about what he's been doing, we'll see like, wow, this is a bust.
Yeah, and we would hate to see that happen. Which he's been okay, but he's not lived up to a number 1 pick.
Oh no,
he's not Lonzo Ball by any means.
He's not even a De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah, and De'Aaron Fox. Let me tell you something. He's only been given about 20 to 22 minutes a game. But this man's been balling out.
He has.
And the Kings, even though they're 1-3, they've been in it with some top competition. I wouldn't be surprised if they figured this out later in the season. If they were able to snag an 8 seed with like a 40-42 record, I wouldn't be surprised. This team looks really good.
They do, and like how we've been talking about in the previous shows, like they have pieces. Scalabus,
absolutely.
Him, Buddy Hield.
Buddy Hield, yep. Willie Cauley-Stein for sure. I know I have Willie Cauley-Stein on my fantasy team.
How's he doing?
He didn't play too well in his last game, but the first 3 games, he's been double machine.
Oh gosh,
and he's been doing really well, and I'm impressed.
What a champ!
And Buddy's been He's been a buddy. his teammates love him right now. He's been not shooting lights out, but compared to last season with the Pelicans and the Kings, his shooting percentage has come up. I think he's starting to come into his role with that team, in being not the leader. We know George Hill and Zach Randolph and Vince Carter are the veterans of that team. Vince Carter's been playing well for that team too. Really disappointed he didn't come to Toronto this year, but maybe he's got 1 more year left in him, and we'll sign him next year.
That'd be nice to see.
Wishful thinking. Bring him back to the 6. But. No, just those guys are the leaders of that team, but you can see that Buddy Hield's starting to come into his own. Him and De'Aaron Fox are developing some chemistry there. Scal and Willie Cauley-Stein developing some chemistry there. And it's
bright future ahead for sure.
Just all these guys. They've got 4 young guys that are going to be studs, and Harry Giles will come back from his injury, and we expect him to play well. This team's loaded for the future.
It is. They are loaded, and I'm happy for them because they've had a lot of years. But misery.
Absolutely. Speaking of miserable teams, though, not so much this year. The Orlando Magic, coming off the first 4 games of the season, are 3-1, and one of those wins being a dominating performance at Cleveland and beating the Cavaliers. Rick, I'm just going to ask you straight up: are the Magic for real? Are you buying into this hype?
I'm buying into the Aaron Gordon hype, but not as a whole, not as a team in general, because they're not going to get past the Cavs in the playoffs.
That's fair. That's fair. Do they make the playoffs? Do the Magic get in?
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
You're going to lock the Magic in after 4 games.
I'm locking them in. If Aaron Gordon keeps playing how he's playing, they will go to the playoffs.
Okay.
But they're not going to beat teams like the Raptors, the Celtics, or the Cavs in 7-game series.
Right. I don't know if I'm going to buy into it. I think I need a larger sample size, but
that's fair.
For right now, they're playing well, but I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to buy it. I'm buying Aaron Gordon, like you said, career high 41 points this week. He played out of his freaking mind. Him and Vucevic in his second game, I believe it was. He played like an animal, scoring 40-something points.
Yeah.
He was. I think that both of them are going to be the stars of this team. We thought that Jonathan Simmons might be, maybe Jonathan Isaac, Terrence Ross, Elfrid Payton, even maybe one of these guys would step up. We knew Vucevic was a good player. We knew Aaron Gordon was a good player. We didn't know that they had star potential though. Vucevic is looking like an all-star this year.
He is, and same with Aaron Gordon. It was 14 of 18 from the field last night.
That's unreal. That's over 70%. That's unreal.
8 for 10 free throws.
Wow. See, I didn't even look at the stats. I had seen the highlights from the 41 points. I didn't know it was
and 5 threes.
5 3-pointers?
Yes. He's been working on that 3-pointer.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Okay, you might change my mind. I'll tell you what. I'll give you an answer next week. Let me see how they play in their next 3 or 4 games, and I will.
But you are right. A bigger sample size.
I might have to change my answer. But speaking of one of the teams that they've played twice now in the opening 4 games, they've gone 1-1 against this team. Surprisingly enough, the Brooklyn Nets, their star D'Angelo Russell, will he be an All-Star this year, averaging 23 points, almost 5 rebounds, and almost 6 assists?
I think so because the East, they're so weak.
Right.
I think he does make it because he's playing real good, and I think he'll continue playing well. So I'm happy to see him play like this, and he will be an All-Star for sure this season.
I'm going to have to agree with you, and I'm going to say like 112% bookmark it. D'Angelo Russell, he's not going to start, but he's going to make the team. He's going to be in one of those guard spots. I mean, if I said anyone else was averaging 23, 5, and 6 in the East that wasn't on the Brooklyn Nets, you would say that's a for sure thing. But see, even that, the Brooklyn Nets are 2-2 right now. So we know
because of him.
We know they're capable of winning, exactly. So to say that he wouldn't be an All-Star, please tell me how he wouldn't be. I mean, these are numbers of any other All-Star player that's made it. Better numbers than some All-Stars that have made it.
Exactly.
Especially being in the Eastern Conference. I think you can lock this in for sure.
And I'm happy. I'm really happy because, some guys are stepping up for the East. Aaron Gordon, D'Angelo Russell.
Absolutely. And speaking of another Eastern team, they started off the season I believe they're 1-2 right now. But this is a team that I'm really high on, and I want to get your opinion on. The Charlotte Hornets, even though they're 1-2, is Dwight Howard and Campbell Walker combined enough to get them into the playoffs?
It's enough to get them into the playoffs, but that's about it.
Right. I mean, but you think that they can grab a 6, 7, 8 seed?
Yes. Because this duo right here, Kemba, I'm a big fan of Kemba.
I think you and me both, ever since he came into the league, he's been a spark plug ever since the Bobcat days.
Yeah.
He's been great.
Underrated, like people.
And for people that don't know what I'm talking about, if you're a new fan of the NBA, the Charlotte Hornets were the Charlotte Bobcats a few years ago. They changed their name. So he's been in Charlotte his whole career. But getting back to them, I mean, this duo, combined they average 35 points together. But, Kemba having 22 and then Dwight having 13. Dwight is averaging over 17 rebounds a game.
That's insane.
I mean, this is looking like Orlando Dwight as far as the defensive side goes. I mean, of course, his scoring is going to come down because he's not the number one option anymore. But on the defensive end, he looks great. He's averaging 2 blocks. He looks, I don't want to say rejuvenated, but I almost want to use that word because he looks so good this year.
Yeah, and he did come in with this season with something to prove. He worked real hard in the offseason, and he just wanted to, just how I said, he wanted to prove people wrong, and I think he is doing it.
And I also think that, credit to Steve Clifford, their head coach, on being able to work with Dwight, because we know that he's had headbutts in the past with head coaches and even some other players. But I think him and Kemba seem to be pretty close on this team. There you can see the chemistry there on the floor. Yeah. And when Dwight and Kemba are both smiling, it's a good sign. It's a good sign. Even when they're 1-2, they have a losing record right now, but that's likely to change or subject to change at least. But as long as these guys are happy playing together, and they're producing, I mean, the wins will come. I'm sure that when Batum comes back, he'll help them out. Marvin Williams is going to have to step up. I really like Cody Zeller. I think he's underrated for that Hornets team. Especially coming off the bench now. I think he's really underrated. He's probably one of the best backup centers in the league. And then Malik Monk, I expect him to come into his own and turn into that sharpshooter that we all expect him to be.
Yes, I agree 100%. Malik Monk, I almost forgot about him. They will make the playoffs. They will be good. And I'm happy to see the chemistry between Kemba and Dwight being nice and healthy right now.
Can you tell I'm biased towards Charlotte? I'm not even a Hornets fan. I just really like their group of guys that they have going on. I want them to succed more than anything, especially Dwight. I want Dwight to be able to get playoff basketball again.
Yeah, he's just a nice guy.
The nicest, most kind-hearted human being, and you wouldn't expect that looking at him. He looks like an animal. He's built like a brick house.
He does.
but really nice guy. Does a lot for charity, kids, and he's just a really like you say, he's a fun guy.
He's a fun guy.
And I think that's why he's a good locker room guy for this team. And I think that Steve Clifford knows how to utilize that because he had worked with him before in Orlando.
Right, exactly.
But, we're really high on Charlotte, and wish nothing but Campbell Walker, Dwight Howard on a great season. Hopefully they'll pick it up here and end the season with a hopefully winning record. But that's going to conclude the. No, it's not. We have one more point. I know why I wanted to write this down because I wanted to get your opinion, Rick. After the Thunder's loss to the Timberwolves and Andrew Wiggins hitting that game winner, they're now 1-2. Is it time for them to hit the panic button just yet?
No, not at all. Not at all. Because just how we've recently talked as well, Paul George, Melo, and Russell, it's gonna take some time for them to gel because they're also ball dominant. It's not gonna be easy to just come in, hey, let's just play and be good right away. No, it's gonna take some time to getting used to. They shouldn't panic yet. They have way too much talent for them to be bad.
But that's got to be demoralizing, losing a game winner like that. After Carmelo Anthony hit the three to take the lead with 5 seconds left, and then Andrew Wiggins just breaks the heart of every single Oklahoma City fan in that building.
That is pretty tough for them to experience, but it's just part of the game, and I think they'll be a very good team this year.
That's fair to say. Okay, now that will conclude the segments section of this episode, but now we're going to jump into the predictions before we go ahead and close out here.
These are my favorite. To be honest,
these are always fun. I did tally it up last week. I did have more correct last week, so I'm going to take that point there. But we'll try it again. We'll try it again this week. See if Rick can get me back. But going into the predictions for October 25th tonight, I'll go ahead and ask you the first one. Cleveland at Brooklyn.
Cleveland.
I'm going to go ahead and take the Cavs as well. How about Raptors at Warriors?
Warriors. I'm sorry.
I'm a biased fan. I have to go ahead and say Toronto. Even if they're going to take that L, I have to stick with my team.
But shoot, the way the Warriors play, you never know.
You never know. You never know. But I'm going to go ahead and take the Raptors on that one.
Gotcha. What about the Nuggets at the Hornets?
I really like the Hornets, but I think the Nuggets go ahead and take this one. I think that them getting beat by the Jazz a few days ago, they're going to go ahead and turn that around and get the W. I see.
I'm just going to go the other way and go with the Hornets. It's at home. Mm-hmm. Kemba is going to go crazy, I think so.
Okay. Let's go with the Timberwolves at the Pistons.
Timberwolves.
I'm going to have to agree with you. I think that 30-point loss to Indiana really is going to wake them up. And I know they're going to miss Jimmy Butler, but I think the Pistons defensively aren't as good as the Pacers. So we're going to go ahead and we're both going to take the Wolves on that one.
Okay, what about the Rockets at 76ers in Philly?
Sixers are missing Markelle Fultz. I think I'm going to pick Houston.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough for them to actually beat Houston. So Rockets as well. What about the Spurs at Heat? That's a tough one.
I'm going to say the Spurs finally missed Kawhi Leonard. Miami's going to get the win at home. Whiteside goes off for 20 and 10.
I would like to think that, but just the Spurs, I want Murray to go crazy. I think they take one at Miami.
Okay. How about Indiana at OKC?
I'm going to have to go with OKC, to be honest.
I'm going to have to agree with you. I don't think they let another one get away from them after that heartbreaking loss.
Especially against the Pacers.
Absolutely. I think they beat Indiana by 20+.
Okay, what about Memphis versus Dallas?
Grizzlies. That's all I'm going to say.
That's a tough one for me. But I'm gonna go with Dallas just because they're at home. Just because they're at home.
I just haven't seen anything from Dallas this year to make me think that they're capable of winning. Other than Dennis Smith Jr., who I'm not even sure. I think he's playing. I know he's been out with a leg injury, but if he plays, I'll give him a shot to win it. But I'm still gonna take Memphis.
Yeah, no, I understand. I'm just gonna go because they're at home.
Fair enough.
But what about the Jazz in Phoenix?
Jazz. the Suns are just Eric Bledsoe has been dismissed by the team. He's staying home. They don't have a primary ball handler right now.
He's staying home.
They sent him home. He's still being paid by the team, but they sent him home.
Oh wow, that's tough.
I'm gonna take the Jazz.
Yeah, Jazz on this one.
All right, last one. How about the Washington Wizards at Los Angeles Lakers? Who are you taking?
I want to go with the Lakers just because of what Gortat said.
I didn't hear about this.
That Wall was going to torture Ball. the entire
John
game.
Wall was going to torch Lonzo.
Yeah, he was going to torture him.
Oh. Now, see, that's some harsh language from the Polish Hammer. Let's, I think he needs to calm down a little bit. I mean, as much as I love John Wall, I mean, we've seen that Lonzo's no pushover, except when he's playing Patrick Beverley. But we all know that Patrick Beverley is one of the, nose to the grind kind of defenders. He's one of the best, if not the best, point guard defender in the league.
Yeah, for sure.
John Wall, he's a good defender. He's not Patrick Beverley. But on the offensive end, I do expect him to outplay Lonzo. But I expect the game to be close. I'm still going to take the Wizards on this one.
The Wizards? Okay, yeah, for sure. I just hope Lonzo just has like a triple-double this game just to prove.
He very well could. It's going to be a great point guard matchup, and I'm looking forward to Lonzo and John squaring off against each other.
Okay, we'll see who wins this round.
I'll be keeping track, don't worry, and we'll come back next week with the results. But anyway, that's going to do it for us here. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. We had a lot of fun making it, as we always do. But, we'll be back next week for another installment of the GRCV Hoops podcast.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Hope you have a good week, and stay tuned for the next episode.
Peace.